bonus module, using your book assessment as a guide. Once you have analyzed your book and decided it's worth developing into a film, the next step is determining how to do this. Use your book assessment as a guide for what to do. This process can involve a number of steps depending on how well your book has been selling, how old it is, and whether your book lends itself to a single film or a TV film series. Responding to your book assessment. Following are two possible responses to your book assessment. One is that your book appears ideally suited to become a film as is. The other is that your book needs some major fixes to be turned into a film. Here's what you might do in each case. 1. Your book appears to be ideally suited to become a film as is. In this case, you don't need to make any fixes to turn your book into a film besides cutting down some details for creating a script and taking into consideration the production costs. For example, maybe you can cut down on the number of characters, locations, or action scenes that might be expensive to produce, such as the arrival of a helicopter during an avalanche. Before creating a script for a film or TV film series, consider the possibility of selling film rights to your book. In this case, you pitch the book as is, though you might possibly create a sizzle reel to make it stand out, in the hopes that a producer or agent will want to produce it or represent it. The sale of film rights may work when you have a well-written book with no major flaws, based on assessing your book. Plus, your book needs to meet other criteria for this approach to work. Commonly, selling film rights works well when your book has been a bestseller or has achieved major sales. It also helps if you, as the author, are well-known and have a large following on the social media. If you have endorsements from well-known experts, that helps too. Should you decide to pitch film rights, an initial query letter to producers and agents can be the way to go. Also, a sizzle reel can help persuade those you contact to want to see more. After that, you usually need a logline and synopsis, plus your book for your follow-up. However, even if you have a well-written book, selling film rights is less likely if the book hasn't achieved major sales and if you don't have a high-profile platform. A film rights sale is also less likely if the book has been published more than a year or two ago, so it is past its prime. If selling film rights is difficult, you are likely to have more success if you create a script based on your book and pitch that. If the script is for a standalone film, just the logline and synopsis plus the script is fine. If it is part of a series, create a show Bible, which is like a book proposal but for films. Additionally, write a script as a sample episode in the series. In general, it is better to think of your book becoming a single film, since it is easier to interest a producer or agent in a script for this. Also, it is easier to find a distributor for a standalone film. But if there is a lot of material in the book, or if the book is designed to be part of a trilogy or larger series, a TV or film series is the way to go. 2. Your book needs some major fixes to be turned into a film. If your book needs some major fixes, you generally don't want to pitch film rights. The exceptions are if you have a high profile and large social media following, or if the book has done exceptionally well in sales in the past year or two. If you fit into one of these exceptions, you can pitch film rights, though include a logline and synopsis with an overview of the film and explain how the film is based on or inspired by your book. This way, the producer or agent can see how your book might be turned into a film, rather than reviewing the book and being turned off because they recognize what's wrong with it and don't see how a film could be based on it. Assuming you aren't going to pitch film rights, the next step is to create a script based on making the fixes necessary to make a good film. Your script should present the story, characters, and dialogue the way you envision the film based on your book. To write this script, it may help to first create a treatment or have the scriptwriter create this. This treatment outlines the major scenes to be included in your film, but it doesn't have the dialogue and other details for each scene. It's like a written storyboard with writing instead of pictures. The treatment can also be used to determine what scenes should remain and what should be cut if the treatment is very long. That can occur because of the many different scenes, locations, and characters in your book that should be reduced to make a compelling film. In effect, the treatment is like a map of the terrain, and you use that to guide you in writing your script. But sometimes you can skip the treatment and write the scenes to include directly, especially if the book is short. To do this, just bracket each scene in the book that you want to include in your script. Use whatever script writing approach works best for you. In creating the script or writing a treatment to guide you in writing it, here are some major fixes you might need to make based on the problems in assessing your book to film potential. The types of fixes you may need to make. These are some of the major issues that typically show up in a book assessment, along with the ways to fix them. 1. There is too much detail in the book. The fix is to cut out much of this detail for the film. 2. The book is very long with a great many characters and subplots. The fix is to either cut down the script to focus on 1 or 2 stories, or create a TV film series and write the script for the first episode of the series. 3. The book has many long speeches or discussions. The fix is to shorten each speech or discussion to feature the most important points that are relevant to the story. Also, add in more scenes with action and dialogue that reflect these ideas. 4. The book is very academic and has a lot of technical, scientific language. The fix is to show the way things work in a scene or to use everyday language to explain anything that's technical. This explanation can be done through a conversation with another character or through a character's self-reflection or voiceover narration. Keep these explanations to a minimum. Just give the viewer a general idea of how things work and let the viewer see any equipment in action. 5. The book is very short. The fix is to add additional scenes and dialogue to create a feature film which is about 80 to 120 pages. 6. The story takes place in a different time and place in history involving costumes and settings from the period. A historical drama can be fine for a high-budget film, but it is too expensive to produce as an independent feature. The fix is to focus in on a few characters and use stock footage to provide the historical context. 7. The book has many locations in different cities, states, or countries. The fix is to reduce the number of locations or use cutaways with stock images or photos to avoid traveling to many locations to cut down costs. 8. The book features many well-known real people in major or supporting roles. The fix is to use characters with different names or check in with a lawyer on what you can and can't use, since you may need to get permissions to portray real people, and these rights might be difficult or expensive to obtain. 9. The book is very descriptive and has very little direct dialogue. Generally, conversations are described by saying that one person said something. The fix is to turn such statements into dialogue or add additional dialogue to the scene. 10. There is a lack of character development. As a result, the differences in the personality, speech patterns, or motivation of different characters don't stand out. The fix is to add these qualities to distinguish the way that different characters speak, or add some scenes to give the character more to do or say. 11. A character who seems important in the beginning suddenly disappears for a long time or completely, or an important character suddenly appears without any introduction in the middle of the book. The fix here is to add in more scenes with the character to better introduce or integrate that character into the story. There may be other problems that come up in the suitability of turning the book into a film. If so, think about how to fix them when you write the treatment or script, and don't try to sell the film rights or present your book with an explanation of how you will write the script. Generally, producers and agents want to see either a book that is already well suited to production or the script based on the book. If your book has some or any of the problems described here, producers and agents generally won't continue reading or considering it for production, so it will go on the reject pile. By contrast, if you fix these problems in writing the script, you increase your chances of getting a book to film deal.